Hello, my name is Gabe, and I really like video games. In my ongoing efforts to actually get it together, I've decided to make Game of the Year lists for the past 5 years. I typically just share them with close friends in the form of short articles. I write these because I believe that thinking back on our previous experiences helps us better enjoy new ones. As the years have gone on, I've increasingly written them with an imaginary audience in mind. Realizing said imaginary audience could at least be a small but very real audience, I've decided to make this year's list a video. This does mean that I am now exposing my, at times, questionable opinions to public scrutiny. That being said, if you plan to disagree with me in the comments, at least be funny about it. In college, my creative writing professor urged us to never write about a place we have never been. Seeing as she was well over 90 and was an author who hadn't starved to death, I figured it was pretty good advice. So I must at least finish a game for it to make the list. No exceptions. There are no constraints on the games I include. It's just what I've beaten for the first time. Not even from this year? Fine. Same developer? Who cares? Series? We'll get there. There is a hidden narrative element in the list that will reveal itself as we go along. If you can guess it before the end, thank you for paying attention. That's all there is to it. With formalities out of the way, let's get started. Chaos Faction, Legacy Collection. Time moves in one direction, memory in another. William Gibson. Games we play as children are often held in high regard. For the time, they are in line with our expectations of how games ought to be. This is because we lack experience. We, as children, lack the necessary perspective to realize that most of what we play is garbage. Monopoly is not a good board game, despite what your 10-year-old family members may tell you. Caillou is problematic and deserves a lot of the hate he gets. Don't even get me started on Duck Duck Goose. It is with a heavy heart that I once again return to one of my childhood favorites and find that it does not live up to nostalgia's long shadow. For people of a certain age and temperament, the Flash game looms large as a source of entertainment when money was tight and internet access was the only alternative to going outside. Chaos Faction is one such Flash game series that I remember whiling away a few lazy afternoons with. Regrettably, Flash and all that came with it has joined rewinding VHS tapes and affordable housing in the grand tapestry of experiences that the youth will no longer remember. Yet, what have they really lost? When both games were re-released on Steam under the Legacy Collection banner, I decided to investigate. Turns out, they didn't lose very much. There is a certain creativity here, a soul that may well be lost to time. But all the early 2000s internet soul in the world can't make up for wonky keyboard controls and floaty movement. It was a game I remembered that was meant to be shared. It has a deathmatch mode and an extensive lineup of weapons. While it may be easy enough for two kid-sized hands to share a keyboard, the lack of controller support ensured that multiplayer would no longer be an option for my now spindly adult fingers. I finished Legacy Collection with the understanding that I may never want to play these games again. I'll just leave them behind to my younger self. He didn't care about features or frame rate or controller support. That sweet little idiot will get exactly what he needs out of it. A quick laugh, a distraction from the everyday, and a reminder that someone out there really did just want to make something fun for the sake of it. Summon Night, Swordcraft Story. I wouldn't say that I'm particularly bothered or obsessed with detail. Wes Anderson. The role-playing game has survived generations of a shifting gaming landscape. It's achieved this by emphasizing its strengths and attempting, sometimes unsuccessfully, to escape its weaknesses. RPGs rely on the strength of their characters, the depth of their mechanics, and the richness of their worlds. Most of all, many RPGs live or die on the power of their stories. Summon Night is proof that pulling these things off is not easy. In fact, it embodies the issues most people have with RPGs. The writing quickly devolves into shallow melodrama as you progress, including twists that feel entirely unearned. Hammering out random, grindy battles until you gather materials so you can kill yet another HP sponge gatekeeper chips away at your patience for the drawn-out cutscenes bit by bit. Speaking of bits, you'll create enough drills to acquire a DeWalt sponsorship. Summon Night does have its high points. Despite a sloppy translation, the dialogue did get a laugh out of me here and there, and though they're simple, the cast is likable and varied enough to serve the plot. Even though you will be sick of it by the end, the combat system does shine in the numerous boss battles against other Craft Knights. It's fitting that the post-game is an infinitely grindable tournament and 50 more floors of the incredibly repetitive dungeon you've spent the entire game in. You're essentially asked to beat the game a second time, continuing along an even slower and shallower gear curve to reach an even less satisfying ending. I only hit the first set of credits, and I think that's as good a place as any to stop. The sequels are supposed to be a better realization of the concept. I'm not one to say never, but this first attempt did not have me itching to try the rest. Speed punks. I cannot live on an island of prosperity when I am surrounded by a sea of misery. Ayrton Senna. It's tragic, really. Speed punks, released as Speed Freaks internationally, released about a month before Crash Team Racing. This is the equivalent of releasing any song from Weezer's Blue album a month before Ode to Joy. I might be exaggerating just a bit. However, if you've played Speed Punks, you know that I'm not. To be fair, Buddy Holly is pretty good. Speed Punks, however, is not. I'll admit, I did not enjoy my time with it. The carts feel like rocks from a slingshot, but even bits of tarmac would be more aerodynamic than these bobble-headed Rayman-esque children. I guess I've just been spoiled by better, more expensive kart racers. This is the same industry that pumped out superior games both mere months before and months after Speed Punks hit store shelves. My personal tastes aside, the game has its fans. I don't doubt that it's a hidden gem of the PlayStation. Runs at a smooth frame rate, has solid character and track designs. It's even got a Jamiroquai, yes that's how it's said, song for the intro. The game does have a great sense of speed, and some unlockable characters serve as motivation to master its systems. Systems that, at the end of the day, remain unimpressive. Speed Punks did teach me something. Namely, what serves as the minimum viable product for a kart racer. A little bit of style, colorful courses with a few shortcuts, and driving mechanics that lay on the line between quick to pick up and difficult to master. The game never really pushes in these areas, so it can't really push that high up my list either. But I do like saying Speed Punks. After playing this game, I was reminded of the backfielders in real-life motorsport. The worst drivers in Formula 1 may be horribly off pace, but hey, they still made it to the starting line. 20XX. Boredom is a mask frustration wears. Neil Stephenson. Anthem. One of my favorite games for the Super Nintendo is Mega Man X. Fast action and great music make it worth playing even today. The series encourages you to make risky plays and analyze attack patterns in dangerous one-on-one boss encounters. While we're on the topic of things that I like, one of my favorite modern game genres is the roguelike. I view them as the natural successor to the arcade game. They want you to master their mechanics and play for as long as you can on one credit, memorizing difficult portions and maximizing risk and reward. So when I heard the words Mega Man X inspired roguelike, I salivated like a dog presented with an unattended bucket of fried chicken. What could be a more perfect combination? 20xx's Steam store page reads, "If you like roguelikes or Mega Man, 20xx is for you." That "or" made me a little wary, but on sale the game is only $3. What did I have to lose? My time. "20xx is not successful as a Mega Man tribute or a roguelike. It often feels as if the developer played Storm Eagle's stage a couple of times, took some notes, and called it a day. There's a complete lack of run-changing items or opportunities that make roguelikes so invigorating, but the core gameplay is not as polished as a Mega Man to make for an interesting action platformer. Repeating level themes and unintuitive boss weaknesses contribute further to this half-baked feeling. I could barely bring myself to clear this one. There's definitely something here, but its potential remains untapped. There's something even worse than the anger that I felt at the scattershot enemy and hazard placements. Oddly enough, boredom crept in when I wasn't cursing the haphazard placements of platforms. If you know anything about Mega Man X, you know that the word boredom should not enter your mind when you're blasting bad bots. 20xx was rough. I promise I'm not foreshadowing anything. We will definitely never hear from these developers again. Jammer Lammy. I wanted to be successful, not famous. George Harrison.
Dojo, casino, it's all in the mind.
That's right. My
Hardware issue.
it's in my mind. Leave it to
I played a lot of rhythm games this year. You'll definitely see that as we go along the list. I've been a distant admirer of the Parappa The Rapper series, particularly its art and its music. So, with the encouragement of a friend, I thought I'd dive in and continue playing the series. I had actually already played the first Parappa The Rapper a few years back, so I knew what I was getting into. Each game is, after all, extremely short, so there was little risk in trying them out. But any 2-hour game can quickly stretch into a 5-hour plus ordeal, especially when it's infamous for input problems. At first, I thought I was just getting filtered by the game's difficulty. Then, upon sheepishly Googling, "How do I stop hating myself in Jammer Lammy?" I was greeted with endless forum threads discussing how the PlayStation just couldn't handle it, and how emulators often take these problems to an unforeseeable extreme. Important context: when I speak about an older game in this list, I've been running almost everything off of my Steam Deck. In some cases, this can muddy the water on whether it's the game itself or the quality of emulation that is currently spoiling my mediocre performance. Generally speaking, I don't mind all that much. It's just nicer to be able to play Ninja Gaiden in bed.
Now get off my back, alright?
Jammer Lammy's excellent soundtrack is extremely susceptible to both hardware and skill issues. The timing of your execution can be thrashed by CPU slowdown or minor frame rate drops. Play badly, and your once stellar concert is turned into a YouTube poop. In a game about music, ruining the soundtrack hurts the most.
What a nightmare!
I made the call. If I tried my best to play through the game, input errors and all, I'd be polluting the original experience. I do have original PS1 hardware, but I'm not about to spend $80 or more on a curiosity. So I pressed on. Eventually, you'll adapt to the crap factor. The input delay really isn't that bad, and it's not so horrid as to ruin the gameplay completely. Your reward for powering through is some jammin' tunes, provided you can keep your rhythm in the good zone. On the whole, I enjoyed Lammy. I certainly enjoyed it more than Parappa the Rapper. I didn't fully appreciate it until I got to the credits, which really solidified the tone the game had been pushing. Yet I can't say you wouldn't get more out of listening to the soundtrack by itself. Sometimes an artist can sound better on a recording, but live performances are always fun for superfans.
Disney's Extreme Skate Adventure.
There's no good idea that can't be improved upon. Michael Eisner. Skating media, particularly games, are a bit of an oddity. They're a product of their time. They're games that dominated the mainstream in pop culture about a supposed counterculture sport. Nearly every older brother, cousin, or uncle of a certain age likely has some great claim about their Tony Hawk's Pro Skater skills. Disney's Extreme Skate Adventure is thus an oddity among oddities. A game pushing for the time recent Disney films with further partnered corporate advertising nestled in a heavily modified Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4 package. If it sounds like I'm in a little bit of disbelief upon reading my own script, it's because I am.
It's pretty scrumptious.
It introduces itself not with the pre-rendered opening cutscene, no. It's a video of kids eating pavement in a Disney skating competition. The winners of said competition are forever immortalized in Mickey Mouse Pro Skater here as disturbing flesh homunculi with mediocre stats. Kidding aside, the degree of advertising and corporate shilling contained within would make a car salesman blush. Collecting Nokia ringtones and delivering McDonald's orders for Ronald himself serve as insidious reminders of how nearly all of children's media is really just one big commercial for consumable garbage. Then again, Crazy Taxi did it, and I love that game. Rather regrettably, the excessive branding does not save the game from mediocrity. While the maps themselves have gorgeous color work and are mostly fun, the objectives and layouts themselves are kinda dry. It just doesn't expect much out of you, just like I don't expect much out of Disney. The game doesn't quite control as well as the mainline Tony Hawk games either, reducing the series' staple snappiness to make it easier for stubby children's hands to wrangle. I didn't hate it. There's only so much you can do to try and ruin a foundation so solid as Pro Skaters. I would not go out of my way to boot this up over the series' proper entries, but it does serve as a fun little time capsule to laugh at and burn a few hours with, before the cynicism of adulthood rears its ugly head once again.
Ah, that baked apple pie be perfect, says I. Thank ye kindly.
Nice job. You did great. Please take these very special shoes as our way of saying thanks.
Rakugaki. In the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities. In the expert mind, there are few. Shunryu Suzuki. I am a sucker for three things in video game pitches: cyberpunk, graffiti, and an emphasis on killer music. This made Rakugaki an easy pickup when I spied it on a deep sale early in the year. I was even happier to find out it's a speedrun-focused action platformer, one of my favorite genre fusions. And when the game does leverage its mechanics, it's fantastic. Flowing levels and a bouncy movement system encourage you to squeeze every second out of your spray cans. Sadly, this manic joy is not always there to keep you afloat. At times, you'll have to wrestle with an early 2000s platformer camera, and the level design doesn't always feel so smooth. Some aspects, like the combat and story, feel more than a bit awkward. Like a teenager trying to find clothes that fit, main character Vala can feel unwieldy as you wrangle her through tighter sequences. The game wants you to play it multiple times and really get used to its particular flavors, but things never really quite come together in a way that would make it as addictive as it could be. As a whole though, I don't think this is a bad first impression for developer Wabi Sabi Games. I value when a developer has a style they want to set, and I feel like they've definitely put themselves on my radar. Their social media accounts suggest they're working on a snowboarding game in the same vein as SSX. I am also a huge sucker for trick-heavy extreme sports nonsense games, so they've gripped me yet again. I look forward to what they make in the future, but as it stands now, this one needed a second coat of paint. Disney's Ratatouille. When you're curious, you find lots of interesting things to do. Walt Disney. Yes, purely licensed games are in fact still video games. Ratatouille is a rather rare delicacy in a world of licensed video games, in that it is not awful. Not incredible by any stretch, though a pleasant surprise is always better than an expected disappointment. Ratatouille takes its inspiration from such mammal-focused hits as Sly Cooper, Crash Bandicoot, and F-Zero. It doesn't do anything quite as good as these games, but it succeeds in both providing passable minigames and inoffensive action platforming. Where the game really shines is in its potential for speedrunning. Skippable cutscenes, open-ended level designs, and a dedicated Go Fast button all lend to further prospects for chasing the clock. I typically evaluate games purely based on their intended design, which is exactly what I did. This game has earned its spot here on my list and has not been given any additional credit for its potential as a speed game. You can beat Ratatouille in an afternoon, even casually. I enjoyed my time with it just fine after my first casual playthrough. All I can say is this: you should try the game. It is legitimately fun, and if you really like it, try breaking it. Some toys just get better if you play with them wrong. Oh, nice. New PB. Parappa The Rapper 2. I'm definitely a writer. I don't even know how to freestyle. Notorious B.I.G. I started Parappa 2 not long after finishing Jammer Lammy. I did this for two reasons. Firstly, since I struggled through Lammy, I thought that its much more forgiving series follow-up would be viewed in a more positive light. Secondly, if I didn't like it and it suffered from similar issues to the first, my hands would still remember what they'd need to. Thankfully, Parappa 2 plays cleaner than its older siblings. The music is just as good, if not better than prior entries, and it has just enough variety to keep you engaged for its short playlist. In fact, I was a bit let down by its more laid-back difficulty curve. Not that I wanted more input lag, but Parappa 2's levels are simply less dense and challenging. As is typical with this series, we can never be truly happy. When your score tier increases or decreases, it triggers a mandatory cutscene and it totally ruins the flow. Going from bad to good or good to cool is as abrupt as any hardware limitations from Lammy or the first Parappa. The game's cool tier actually encourages you to freestyle, but I often found the songs worse having to listen to Parappa fumble his canned verses. A rhythm game where the soundtrack is worse when you're good at it? Not your best work, Dogman. Call him a sellout if you want. Sometimes an artist just makes their work more accessible and we just have to deal with it. The Beginner's Guide. An artist never really finishes his work. He merely abandons it. Paul Valéry. In the past, when I've composed my Game of the Year lists purely as a writing exercise, the compliment I always foisted on my favorite games of any given year is thus, that they are video games. It's a compliment, not just a statement of fact. Video games are my favorite pieces of media. More than movies, more than TV shows, more than books, more than any painting, statue, even botanical garden. I enjoy games as multimedia projects that rely almost completely on the interpretation of and input from the viewer. Any piece of art can be evaluated on its face or studied for hours on end. But there is no execution requirement for the Mona Lisa. You are not barred from the remainder of The Big Lebowski for failing a QuickTime event. Appreciation for any work in a typical museum requires only that you give it a look. You may not see the brush techniques or the complexities of the color choices, but you are still granted a look at the entire work. Yet for video games, the necessary interactive element can bar our full enjoyment of them. You may never see all of an offering, even one you enjoy, because of skill issues or other such get-goodery. For example, I adore the atmosphere and dystopian setting of Oddworld, but I struggle to cope with the gameplay. I am horrendous at puzzles, and I hate escort missions. If there was an Oddworld movie, I'm sure I'd love it, but what would I lose? What experiences purely associated with the fact that you are in charge of these helpless followers, that you are personally responsible for their safety as well as your own, would be buried under a change in narrative to suit the new medium? Maybe one day I'll get over my own impatience and enjoy such games for what they are. Or maybe it was never meant to be in the first place. The Beginner's Guide is a piece about the feeling I just described. It's about the desire to enjoy something, to find meaning in it, and to experience it the right way. To truly see somebody else, to relate to them, to seek out some kind of human truth that is embedded in everything we create and experience. And in a terrifying twist, that you may fundamentally misunderstand it, and that the right way was never there for you to begin with. The Beginner's Guide reminds us that we may never truly understand another person. We may never comprehend the artist's truth in their work. I found it beautiful. I found it boring. I found it funny. I found it haunting. Worst of all, I found it to not really be a video game. The interactive element is necessary, and it does further both the narrative and thematic elements of the game. But it's not a video game in the way I usually associate the term. If I had played this closer to its release, when it served as a meta-commentary on the walking simulator, on the nature of parasocial attachment, on the function of game development as a creative outlet, I might have found its message a bit more striking. I've simply experienced it too late. The games as art conversation has largely moved away from these topics. Any number of RPG Maker indies that try and tackle these subjects are shotgun pellets scattered during any seasonal Steam sale. For better or for worse, intellectualism in the realm of video games has given way to the several hour-long video essay about any number of titles. These days, you probably can find a 12-hour-plus documentary on the desperate loneliness of Sonic the Hedgehog if you look hard enough. If any of this philosophical ramble has piqued your interest, you're likely to enjoy what the Beginner's Guide provides. If you found it pretentious, long-winded, or confusing, it's simply not for you. Sometimes, art doesn't speak to us. Sometimes, it screams, yet we are never required to listen. Dreams of Aether. I love eating junk food. I'm a huge snacker. Chips and candy. Jeremy Linsanity Lin, former NBA point guard. If that last quote felt a bit jarring for you, so was Dreams of Aether for me. Released for free as an April Fool's joke, Aether Studios continues to deliver experiences both familiar and unique. Their roster of charming characters continues to expand, with fun dialogue further supported by great music from composer Rezoforce. I think this made it so high up the list because of timing, both in its comedic writing and its release date. It's a bold move to surprise your audience with a tiny spin-off game as a distraction while they wait for a new update the next day for a free character for your critically acclaimed Present at Evo fighting game. I appreciate when a developer doesn't take themselves too seriously. Aether's universe grows alongside its audience and its studio, but Dan Fornace and his team never seem to lose their apparent indie dev whimsy. These are games at the end of the day, big or small, and joy comes in all sizes. Asuka 120%. Limit over. I enjoy life when things are happening. I don't care if it's good things or bad things. That means you're alive. Joan Rivers. I struggle to recommend Asuka 120% Burning Fest, specifically this Limit Over patch. Aside from the loaded potatoes-esque title, this is the most bare bones that a fighting game can get. There's merely the suggestion of a single-player mode, some settings, and the menus don't even have graphics. These days, you get the game through a Discord and you run it through an aging Sega Saturn emulator. There is no fluff, no filler, not even set dressing. Everything that is left is only there to facilitate you getting to the game as quickly as possible. So why is it so far up the list? Let me tell you about a little game called Karnov's Revenge. Karnov's Revenge is one of the worst fighting games I've ever loved. Several years ago, my friends and I launched the game as a drunken curiosity while browsing Fightcade. We expected it to just be bad, but instead, we found an immensely fun, frighteningly volatile, and hilariously broken game that we continue to play today when the mood takes us. So what does any of this have to do with Asuka 120% Burning Fest Limit Over? Asuka 120% is Karnov's Revenge for psychopaths. It is also immensely fun, frighteningly volatile, and hilariously broken. This game has so many mechanics and such free movement that it borders on lunacy. Every single hit can clash and instantly cancel its end lag like an angrier third strike parry. Double jumps have melee Jigglypuff movement. The corner, normally a fighting game death sentence, is now your best friend. Yet, through all of the nonsense, you actually can see the DNA of many modern games in this now dormant series. If you look closely, half the characters in this game would likely show up in an Ancestry.com search of multiple A-lister characters. You can even track some of the developers who worked on the series to several modern standouts like Undernight or Phantom Breaker. Despite its age, it handles extremely well. Let me make something perfectly clear. Asuka 120% isn't this high on the list because it's an objectively good game. I mean this as affectionately as I can. It's pretty awful. But more importantly, it's fun. I have played and even ran small brackets for pretty awful games. Trust me. You haven't lived until you've put your pride on the line in a game of Jackie Chan in Fists of Fire. The true essence of fighting games has never been about how good, new, or fair your particular title is. It has always been about getting together with a bunch of people you love, talking trash, and showing off your skills. Sonic X Shadow Generations. I tend to live in the past because most of my life is there. Herb Cain. Sonic Generations was a love letter to Sonic's origins. While I loved it when I was a young teen, I can't say it holds the same sway for me now. Other games, even smaller ones, have begun to do better what the series has been attempting to pull off for the larger part of 2 decades. Today, I dare say that Sonic's side of this package feels like an arrogant victory lap for a 5th place finish. I'm not at all mad about the heavy nostalgia leanings. If anything, a franchise this old needs those consistent elements to keep its core vision intact. We've all seen what happens when Sega feels a bit too
3, 2, 1, go!
experimental. In fitting contrast, Shadow's portion feels like a genuine reflection on the series' recent past, and a statement of hope for the future. This is the first Hedgehog-focused platformer I have played in a long while where new abilities added more depth to the level designs and the platforming, though the actual use of said abilities is a little limited in scope due to a shorter runtime. If I can be frank for a moment, during pre-production, I struggled to write meaningfully about this game. Whether it's because it was simply good or because I'm mostly surprised that it wasn't bad, I can't yet say. When I was about 10 years old, I had 3 favorite things: race cars, pizza, and Sonic Adventure 2 Battle for the GameCube. Now, as a 27-year-old who doesn't have the money to race real cars and who should probably eat a lot less pizza, Shadow Generations gave me a little bit of that childhood time back. It was easier for me to ignore the less enjoyable portions because a more innocent part of me was just excited to hear
the blue hedgehog of all places.
That blue hedgehog again, of all places.
I'm happy I played it. It's just a shame that the modern Sonic game with the best level design gives you a power at the end that lets you skip most of it. Balatro. Balatro? The one with the cards in it. Balatro is probably the coziest roguelike I have ever played. It still has those addictive elements, but it's much more laid back than other games in the deck builder genre. This game absolutely swept indie category game awards through 2024, yet I can't help but feel like it was a little bit of a case of right place, right time, rather than a strong indicator of quality. Balatro is plenty fun, there's no denying it. The general public was really holding this game head and shoulders above quite a lot last year, but as a bit of a roguelike diehard, it didn't scratch those itches for me. It didn't replace Slay the Spire, or One Step from Eden, or Tiny Rogues in my addiction rotation. And you know what? It doesn't have to. A game can stand on its own and be appreciated for what it is. The roguelike genre is so inundated with repeats, copycats, and wannabes that a relaxing poker deck builder can slide right in without much trouble. It really is fun to break it apart and get a good run going. Gambling will always be thrilling. Maybe it's just a victim of hype in my mind, and years from now I'll be at the high stakes table with everyone else. For now, I'll keep the cards closer to my chest.
Let's see what you got, ugly. Pair of threes.
Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite and Beyond. I only ever turned to writing because I couldn't find somebody to write the kind of stuff I wanted to do. Jonathan Hickman, the GOAT. Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite was such a distinct tragedy in my memory. Such a legendary series being laid so low was a shock to the senses. Even now, seeing the old trailers and story cutscenes for the game fill me with a sense of emptiness and despair I can only compare to the first time I failed an important test in school. Capcom had taken a series so timeless that people to this day associate X-Men and Street Fighter together and obliterated it in a matter of months up to release. If Marvel could fail, all fighting game franchises were on a similarly hazardous cliffside. Which is exactly why I am overjoyed to report that somebody decided to do something about it. In an age where bad products are rushed out the door and left to die, dedicated fans have worked tirelessly to restore, reinvigorate, and reinvent games not given the love they deserve. Over the years, we've seen titles as lampooned as Sonic 06 be resurrected through wildly successful fan projects. Sometimes, the tweaks are small. Prime hacks, improved controls, or Slippy's matchmaking and rollback netcode do not fundamentally upheave the games they're built upon. They just give the titles features befitting their legendary status. Some, like Doom's many total conversions, merely use the foundations as a stepping stone to create something completely new. What Beyond has given Marvel Infinite is more so the former, but one cannot deny the polish makes a difference. Marvel Infinite was always good. The gameplay found in the Beyond package is largely unchanged from the original vision. While it did make a few changes, many believe this mod completely reinvented it. Why? It's really quite simple. Style matters. Aesthetics matter. Sound matters. When your game is anemic in these areas, no amount of Sugar Rush infused tag combo goodness is going to get Johnny 3 Beers and friends into the living room to throw down. MVCI and Beyond reminds us all of the power that spectacle can hold over the unconvinced. Arcade culture taught us this decades ago. Flashy attract screens were one thing, but a demo showing Captain America giving Ryu from Street Fighter a concussion? It's just, dare I say, marvelous. If my recent time at a certain major tournament's show floor has taught me anything, it's this. There is no need to sell us on a game that sells itself. Capcom Fighting Collection 2. You can't help getting older, but you don't have to get old. George Burns. Collections of classic games are rarely worth picking up. These days, it feels like every company wants to revel in its past, often with a price tag that more resembles its present. Capcom's Fighting Collection titles are kind enough to offer up a bit more value to justify said price. And while Marvel's collection got all of the fanfare, genre enthusiasts like myself need look no further for the best selection of classic fighting games, with the exception of Capcom Fighting Jam, which sticks out like a large rat in the lobby of a New York Hilton. While we're on the subject, I'll give my short thoughts on each individual game so I don't have to review them again later. Is this a little lazy? Yes. Plasma Sword, Nightmare of Bilstein. A cool title can't mask the fact that Capcom really didn't get weapon fighters. It's still fun to mess around in, but I'd never put serious time into it. Power Stone. An odd take on the fighting game genre, but fun to play as a curiosity. Power Stone 2. Stop playing Power Stone, get a case of beers and 3 friends, and start playing Power Stone 2. It's the perfect game to play when some of you are too good at Super Smash Bros. Or if you just hate Mario Party. Street Fighter Alpha 3 Upper. How fitting that a game with as many re-releases as Alpha 3 has yet another version included here. It's just as good as any other version of Alpha 3. It holds up. Capcom Fighting Jam. I don't like Capcom Fighting Jam. I have yet to meet someone in real life who does. This was not worth including for the Ingrid cross-promotion. Project Justice. The most pick-up-and-play title that Capcom has ever made. It's fun at every level, and the fact that they've never made another one is a crime. The scraps fans have been getting thrown recently are simply not enough. Please, Capcom, I need Ran and Roy to appear in literally anything. Capcom vs SNK Millennium Fight 2000 Pro. If I am ever seen playing this, it's because somebody else asked me to, and not because I like it. At least the stages are pretty. Capcom vs SNK 2 Mark of the Millennium 2001. This is one of my favorite fighting games of all time. I'm not especially good at it, though if the length of this video is anything to go by, that's never stopped me before. Its inclusion here carries this collection harder than Vega's Crouching Medium Punch carries me. Each game in the collection is given robust online play, a gorgeous collection of concept and promotional art, and most exciting of all, the star games of the collection are given completely overhauled soundtracks that can be substituted for the originals during gameplay. Every game has a more complete training mode, viewable hitboxes, secret character toggles, and it's all designed to make reliving these timeless games easier than ever. If I can be real for a moment, I'm not getting any younger. As of today's recording, I'm much closer to 30 than I am to 20. And if the laws of time are consistent, that can only get worse. The classic games I played as a 7-year-old child were as old then as the classic collections I play are now as an adult. It both sickens and delights me to think that the games that I enjoyed as a child are now sold to new children as classics. That's just how time works, I suppose. The only thing that I can hope for now is that those kids might find the same joy that I did so many years ago. Yakuza Like a Dragon. Alternatively, Yakuza Like a Dragon Quest, Hope of a Homeless Hero. I don't have any children. I have 4 middle-aged people. Dick Van Dyke. Taking its rightful place as the longest game I've beaten this year, Like a Dragon became part of my lifestyle for at least 4 months. When you consider that 4 months of time for a working adult is a lot of opportunity cost, it's rather impressive. Yakuza Like a Dragon has something for every time of day and every type of player. Morning grinding sessions made me feel like a kid playing Pokemon. Afternoon sub-stories reminded me of episodes of Friends after I had walked home from high school. Evening story missions made me feel like I was sitting down for one of those Hercule Poirot movies I've come to love as an adult. In fact, the sheer variety of the game helped me overcome its rather absurd length. This is actually the first Yakuza game I've rolled credits on. I'm now on board to beat both this game's sequel and its predecessors over the course of my remaining lifespan. I put it that way because these games are long, detailed, and full of side content that I absolutely cannot bring myself to skip. Could I pass by the numerous sub-stories and side activities that litter Yakuza's slice of Japan? Well, yes. I could also eat nothing but steamed rice and drink room temperature water for a year and technically not die. Like a Dragon does, unfortunately, take a few too many cues from its classic inspirations. It mimics the repetitive turn-based combat of old RPGs, and sloppily blends it with Yakuza's heat action system. The game does not stick the landing on either. The job system and gear acquisition is similarly grindy, but gives a great degree of freedom in the character builds once you get a few levels spread around. The same can be said for the boss fights, which have great decision-making challenges in the moment-to-moment gameplay. But they also carry health bars that would make WoW players blush. You will need to drop everything and grind every few story beats as the HP sponges thicken alongside the plot. I wouldn't call these systems bad, far from it. They just feel so old for a game so new. The combat is probably so grindy and annoying on purpose, but it still kills the pacing. I'm just saying, you're supposed to be role-playing a character that loves fighting, and by the end of it you will hate fighting. Yakuza games have always relied on the strength of their character writing to make it all the way through. Like a Dragon is no different. As Ichiban assembles his band of misfits, tensions rise and alliances change in a way that feels both natural and satisfying. My spectating wife and I each had different favorites in the party by the end, but every single character left an impression. In the only twist I at all hated, the story begins to take a dive as your party finally starts to come together. Meandering and repetitive mission plot lines appear more frequently as you move along. Sub-stories in the aforementioned minigames can only do so much to shore up the monotony. You may hate the batting cage music or playing slots, but it still beats wailing on trash bags and host club members for another 2 hours. Or maybe it doesn't. Those feelings aside, I don't care how slow and tedious some of this game ended up being. I would do it all again to feel those plot twists for the first time. That ending absolutely gutted me. Split fiction. If you want to lift yourself up, lift up someone else. Booker T. Washington. I had extremely high expectations going into Split Fiction. My partner and I played the studio's previous game, It Takes Two, a few years back, and we both adored it. Which is its own high praise, as we rarely agree on anything in the realm of video games, much less finish them together.
Why do you always blame me, huh?
Yes. Why do you always blame him?
Thank you. Oh!
Goddamn.
It's not quite the masterpiece that game was, nor is it as original in art or direction, but Split Fiction is still an unquestionably well-crafted co-op experience. In Split Fiction, you'll find yourself gliding, sliding, racing, shooting, fighting, and talking through lovely vistas inspired by both sci-fi and fantasy media. The mechanical variety would normally be quite intimidating, especially for more casual players, but it lays it all upon an extremely solid action platformer foundation. The game's only noticeable flaw is that it favors people familiar with video games far more often than the prior title.
What took you so long, huh?
Yeah.
What? That was fun. Let's get out of here. Kites rule.
Dexterity and combat challenges occur far more often than abstracted puzzles or collaborative platforming this time around. And on the angle of presentation, Split Fiction tends to refer to other games pretty directly while making no efforts to bridge the gap for those unfamiliar. It Takes Two, by contrast, used more universally relatable concepts during its runtime. Abandoned hobbies both recent and youthful.
Look, it's my garden! Look how everything has grown!
No, Goty, it's you who shrank.
A family vacation.
Why does this place look so familiar?
Yeah. Oh, wait! Hey, you recognize that mountain?
Yes! This is where we had our first skiing trip together.
Yeah.
A beloved childhood toy.
Rose handpicked me at the Space Museum and commissioned me for a special mission.
Though it would mechanically reference other games, sometimes explicitly, the softer set dressing avoided alienating less acquainted players. The cooperative depth doesn't quite reach the same heights either. It more often boils down to hitting a color-coded switch for the other player to reach the next roadblock, rather than coordinating your movements and forming signals for one another. While these types of challenges and levels were not completely absent from It Takes Two, Split Fiction lacks the contextual richness of many of that game's level gimmicks.
The throne room of the Great Monkey King is right up ahead. Be on your best behavior, please.
I promise I'll try.
Bazinga!
Also, I'm not sure if we've simply gotten better at working together, but my partner and I found this game way easier. Not that that's a bad thing, in fact it's probably a product of these games, but it is something we noticed. The story was similarly fine, but a little disappointing. I already dislike the vast majority of quippy dialogue in Haze-like games, but every so often they'll deliver a gut punch that makes you forgive the lackluster moments.
Look, I don't mean to be rude and all, but I really don't do small talk.
Whereas the last title had a delightfully venomous divorce in progress to watch, Split Fiction feels like you've trapped two co-workers from opposing shifts together for a company retreat.
That was brilliant!
You're crazy.
They do not know nearly enough about each other to go for the throat, yet they're afraid to say anything too genuine for fear of revealing too much of themselves too quickly. At this point, you may be wondering why this game is so high up on the list, considering how many criticisms I've leveled at it. When you love something, or someone, you're willing to take the time to discuss issues you may have. In spite of everything I've said up to this point, I could never hate a game this well made. It's pretty, it's fun, and it does have some story moments that drew real emotion from us when we weren't expecting it. Hazelight's co-op adventures, any of them, can deepen friendships and start real conversations. Just because it's not our favorite of their works doesn't mean we didn't enjoy it. You can't always see someone at their A game, but if you can love them, even when they're struggling, you're probably in it for the long haul.
My parents always say I should quit writing and get a real job, but look at me now.
Guitaroo Man. I won't be a rock star. I will be a legend. Freddie Mercury. After Tokimeki Memorial absolutely blew me away last year, I decided to try and include more Japanese stealth banger games on these lists. Perusing both my localized and fan-translated options, Guitaroo Man struck a chord with me.
Guitaroo Man.
What I wanted was a game with style. What I found is a game with heart. It's just so sweet to follow a little idiot like U1 and watch him grow more confident. Guitaroo Man insists that its gameplay and story inform one another. You're basically playing your way through a goofy rock space opera mixed with a Saturday morning cartoon. Not too unlike the hazy memories I hold of random shows I'd catch on a lazy childhood weekend. Does anybody remember Jetix? I remember Jetix. Anyway, it's not uncommon for a particularly difficult section to coincide with moments of doubt or struggle for our heroes, which is appropriate, because much like U1 is not a great human being at the start of the game, you are not going to be good at Guitaroo Man.
Oh, you lose.
It's dark!
Some levels of this game, especially if you plan on playing through the much-feared Master Mode, are a kind of endurance test I don't think many are built for. A few levels in particular had me gritting my teeth and sweating bullets even on a replay. I hate this particular churchgoer more than I probably should. Yet you'll push through for the charm, you'll push through for the style, and if neither of those things are appealing, you will slam your head against this game for its soundtrack. Before I played Guitaroo Man, I had never played a game containing a song called The Legendary Theme, and upon hearing it, agreed with the song's title. The composers knew what they were cooking, and so they decided to set the table. Fatal Fury, City of the Wolves. Live fast, die young, and leave a good-looking corpse. James Dean. It is becoming increasingly difficult to connect with my Latino-American roots as I age. I don't speak much Spanish. I have long since left the Catholic Church. I only own one tiger blanket. As it stands now, SNK fighting games are one of the few remaining ties I have to my culture. For those unaware, Mexicans love SNK games. There's numerous socioeconomic reasons for this that I could get into, but all the same, titles like The King of Fighters hold a sway outside the US that rivals any of the typical top performers here. SNK fighters always provide a lovable roster of colorful characters, deep mechanics, and demanding gameplay. City of the Wolves is no different.
For you, Terry!
Truth lies only in victory.
So Ken, fire still burns, I hope.
You bet. Extra hot, just like we said.
Being a sequel released nearly 26 years after its previous installment, Fatal Fury fittingly feels like a modern reinterpretation of the values of older fighting games. Moment-to-moment execution and predictions matter far more, and both offense and defense have layers of counterplay for you to explore. Pressure is quite dense. Strong normals and manual feints allow for meaningful interactions at nearly any screen distance. As a competitor, I love it, and I always felt like there was more to see. Sadly, I didn't always feel like there were more people to play.
Once fearsome warriors roam the streets like stray dogs.
One thing you need to know about SNK games is that they are cursed. They always come with a Faustian bargain of some sort. For example, after some trading around, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, no, I'm not kidding, now owns a majority stake in SNK, and his influence is definitely apparent.
Muchas gracias, afición. Este para vosotros.
Many people are simply unwilling to support such a controversial figure, even indirectly, and I don't blame them. To add fuel to this questionable purchasing fire, City of the Wolves Online mode died near instantly after release, for numerous reasons, some of which I understand. From purely a gameplay standpoint, single-player content is present but not as strong as Tekken or Street Fighter VI, this game's closest competitors. Real-world guest fighters were put in over series mainstays, which harmed how the game was perceived by both longtime fans like myself and curious outsiders. Those left playing are once again forced to Discord servers to find any decent matches. I wish I could say I love this game. I wish I could say so much more about it. But the truth is that for everything this game does right, there are several buts that have to be dealt with.
Yeah!
Pokemon Crystal Clear. Man suffers only because he takes seriously what the gods made for fun. Alan Watts. I think that most adults who still play video games can pinpoint a phase wherein they played a lot of Pokemon. Unsurprising, considering it is now the largest and highest grossing media franchise in human history. And I'm no exception. I have also played an absurd amount of the series at several points in my life. Yet at the current point in my life, playing Pokemon feels like a job. Assemble a colorful team of weakness-exploiting goobers, apply firmly to a set order of gym leaders, collect badges, and roll credits. For a franchise hinging on the fantasy of being an unsupervised child with a pet flamethrower, it's stiflingly linear. Open world Pokemon, then, is a no-brainer idea. It's so no-brainer that Game Freak made it a reality in the relatively recent Scarlet and Violet. So color me shocked that Crystal Clear did it better as a fan project several years earlier. From the custom character sprite to the ludicrous amount of starting options, it's infinitely replayable and ripe for the oft-ignored roleplay aspect of this role-playing game series. Being able to start in any town and the lack of required HMs opens up a degree of freedom sorely lacking from the originals. This, naturally, leads to increased engagement as you plot your own path to Victory Road. What will you catch, and when? When should you challenge a particular gym? Is it worth a detour to try out or catch a new team member? All this and more encouraged me to become as immersed in Pokemon's world as the lawless 10-year-olds that live inside it. On that note, this may be the only Pokemon game where I felt compelled to complete the entire Pokédex. Crystal Clear requires no trading, no events, no e-reader cards, and no save file shenanigans to reasonably complete a full living assortment of pocket critters. Which I did! I spent several afternoons combing grass, caves, and oceans for every single species, and shiny hunted some of my favorites. Completing this Pokédex is equal parts challenging and satisfying. Pages upon pages are steadily loaded with information that various real-life 10-year-olds will have committed to memory before their times tables. Some Pokemon are elusive, evil things that will not stay in the capsule. Others are trivial gachapon pickups on the way to the nearest Pokemart. I adored Crystal Clear, but I cannot wholeheartedly put this game at number 1. Pace is always an issue in these older titles. I often found the need to use emulator functions like speed up to make the grinding and Pokédex filling just a bit more bearable. Yes, just because I wanted to catch Raikou for my collection did not mean I was willing to spend hours of my ever-dwindling free time chasing it down. It's also a mod, which means that a group of passionate fans were able to fix Pokemon the game before Pokemon the company. Regardless, I can't wait for my next journey through Crystal Clear, whenever that may be. I know whatever I choose, it'll be wholly unique to my last adventure, which is what I always wanted from this franchise. And now, a message from your humble content goblin. I love it when people play any of the games on my lists and share their experiences with me. If anything thus far has grabbed your attention, by all means, I encourage you to try it out. Now, I'd like to preface the remaining segments with the following message. I am no longer just sharing my admittedly irrelevant opinion. Everything from here on out is a direct recommendation from me to you. You should play these. That's right, you've officially entered the Radio Video Games. Any one of these remaining titles could be someone's game of the year, but I played a lot of good games.
So, rock bottom was when you were cooped up in that Soapland office playing non-stop Dragon Quest?
Wouldn't be the man I am today without it.
What I mean to say is, if you have the means to, play all of these on your own time and call me an idiot for putting any one over another, or for recommending them at all. So which eye-feeding hand twitchers have earned their way into my personal Hall of Fame? I'll show you. Haste. Broken Worlds. If everything seems under control, you're just not going fast enough. Mario Andretti. Haste is a game about running out of time. Put another way, Haste is a game about making more time. Halo's combat designer Jamie Graysomer once said that you only need 30 seconds of fun to make an engaging video game. Haste proves him right. As you zip through its rolling hills and dense hazards, you'll come to realize how little you need to make an engaging gameplay loop. For a platformer protagonist without a jump button, Zoe is one of the best controlling characters I've had the pleasure of driving off a cliff. Managing your forward momentum in Haste has all the exhilarating highs of any Sonic-inspired indie, but with none of the mechanical bloat. It is a game unconcerned with its competition, devoted solely to its own vision. I respect its simple purity, especially at a time where games are expected to do everything for their audience. At its core, Haste has two play experiences, moving and dead. That isn't to say that this game has nothing else going on. Solidly emotional character writing helps cover for the rather nebulous story, and none of these characters will necessarily stick to you, but they have memorable enough personalities to carry you along. When Haste really comes together is in its final few stages. The plot begins to tighten up, and is surprisingly heartfelt. While the final level felt like a little bit of a speed bump in difficulty, it's also one of the most satisfying conclusions I've seen in a long time to any game. Better yet, right when I thought it was all flash and no substance, the developers revealed they really did get it. The music fades. Despite how hectic the last few runs have been, the game becomes weirdly introspective. Things quiet down, and they let you reflect on the journey you just took. As I ended my time with Haste, as every character took their last bow, as Zoe ran off into a monochrome sunset, I sat back in my chair. All I could think was, wow, that was great. Despite there not being much to see, I had found myself attached to this quirky little cast. I love it when a game does that. Then it gave me one more send-off.
Beeline straight for tomorrow. I wanna run it down. Go on, forget all your sorrow and go. But all the songs we sang, they will stay in my heart as we're chasing for something to hold on to. Racing for true love to last. We're all dreaming of a new time, a new way. So give it all you've got on the line. Gotta keep on trying, keep on fighting all the way, all the way.
Oh yeah, they got it.
We're all reaching for the skyline. Don't look back and give it all you've got on the line. Gotta keep on trying, keep on fighting all the way, all the way.
30XX. What is one man's life compared to the eternity of time and space? No more than a snowflake that glitters in the sun for a moment before melting into the flow of time. Osamu Tezuka. I'm sorry, everyone. I lied. 30XX is a video game that wants you to be good at it. How good? You should reasonably be able to win every run. Everything I complained about earlier in 20XX has been overhauled, tweaked, and tightened to make a system that is both extremely similar and unrecognizable. Like fixing up a classic car, battery staple games have turned an old beater into something worthy of any high-profile auto show. Everything is more polished, more meaningful, more exciting. Unlike its predecessor, not once was I ever bored. I was constantly engaged, eyes glued to the screen, dodging attacks and measuring split-second jumps while combing every corner for collectibles both risky and run-breaking. There are builds you can make here, even by accident, that will trivialize a standard run and turn any boss into a punching bag. The best part? If you want to see every secret this game has to offer, you'll need every advantage you can get. The game's final challenges, should you attempt the true ending, are grueling, and it's up to the individual to say if they're worth it. A few, in particular, rival NES greats like Ninja Gaiden in terms of raw difficulty. But after all the time you've put in to get there, the developers have sharpened your senses and given you every possible tool you'll need to succeed. You'll want to be good at it. You'll want to see everything. These developers have proven that one of the greatest resources that anyone ever has is time. Judging by how much they've improved between their last game and this one, I can only imagine how good their next project is going to be. I'm genuinely looking forward to whatever they choose to put out next. What they have right now is pretty special. Beyond good and evil. Know what's weird? Day by day, nothing seems to change. But pretty soon, everything's different. Bill Watterson. Beyond Good and Evil has a strong reputation as an underrated masterpiece. Like most underrated masterpieces, few have actually experienced it. The worst part about loving an indie band, or a small restaurant, or a critical darling sales flop video game is that nobody knows what you're talking about. Numbers have a habit of driving decisions we make as human beings. Though it may shock you looking at this gorgeous B-roll, Beyond Good and Evil didn't make good numbers. Ubisoft seems to have taken these not good numbers to heart, and it often influences how they operate today. It's a bit of a time capsule. It shows the trends of its age. One moment you're speaking with charming cartoon characters and playing surprisingly well-crafted little mini-games. Then the next you're presented with all the modern Ubisoft staples. Ambient stealth sections, simple and pretty engaging combat, scattered collectibles, and minor environmental puzzle solving. The only things it doesn't have from our modern Ubisoft games are large climbable towers, because you live in one. You can tell quite a lot was left on the cutting room floor. There's a tangible lack of money or time for an ambitious masterwork that probably could have used an extra year to come together. Still, just because something is a little undercooked doesn't mean it'll taste bad. Beyond Good and Evil is emotional, engaging, and powerful. It leaves a lot of room for the player to interpret the narrative and the characters, but it's well acted and directed enough to give leads to how you're supposed to feel at any given moment. And in gameplay, it's been stripped to its bare essentials, because they likely ran out of resources to ruin it. It is, as it was intended, an action-adventure video game. A damn good action-adventure video game at that. It's a crime that there will probably never be another game quite like it. This game, and its ending, strongly implies a planned sequel. The HD remaster, even more so. Beyond Good and Evil 2 will almost surely never come out. It will at least be quietly cancelled, and at most has already been stripped for parts. Ubisoft lacks both the funds and the creative vision to make the sequel they want to now, and lacked the numbers and experience to make the game they wanted back then. If this ailing French studio ever does go under, it'll take some of my favorites, both new and old, with it. Tragic? Yes. Deserved? Probably. Pesky evolutionary psychology dissuades us from seeking more difficult routes to success under the guise of self-preservation. Ubisoft is more likely to try and milk another of its exhausted franchises than gamble its already slim life on a what if. They have become experts at making consumable garbage, something we already have far too much of in this age of content overload. We read character summaries on wikis, skim and skip our way through shows and songs. Our attention spans continue to drain as we seek more and more things to attach to. More things to say you like, while having less to actually say about what we love. I think people really do want more substance out of what they enjoy, but our brains are wired for eating candy. So developers make candy, and we buy it. They wonder why people don't want sugar anymore. After all, we keep asking for it, so where's the money for all the candy? But you can't blame the audience. It's not our fault that we are encouraged to see and do everything all the time, forever.
Watching you grow up. There were times I didn't want to let you go. I wanted to keep you with me. But I know that to be truly free, in this world, or where you are now, you have to set your own course, make your own destiny, your own mistakes. Just remember, Jade. Remember us all. Remember, we love you.
You may be wondering at this point why I'm not talking more about the actual game in this segment and why I'm instead taking opportunities to complain about consumerism and Ubisoft as a company. It's because I feel like this is a game you should experience firsthand. Maybe someday I will make a several hours long full course meal of a video essay just for this one game. But for now, I insist that you try it yourself instead. If there's one thing Beyond Good and Evil imparted on me, it's that we need to be more authentic. We need to make ourselves present here and now, rather than constantly wish we were doing anything else. There's value in the now, value in the moments that make up our joys and sorrows. I want you, dear viewer, to promise me something right now. Promise me you'll go experience something authentically. It can be a work of art, your job, this game, anything. Immerse yourself in it. Pay attention to it. Form an opinion on it. Ignore any outside discourse or social media for a moment. Seek your own truths. Maybe the conclusions you reach are wrong. Maybe you kept missing something small and wish you'd known it sooner. Maybe something frustrated you or surprised you. It might feel different, maybe even uncomfortable, but it will be real. No matter how fantastic, no matter how droll, make the most of your time, if only for a moment.
Cool.
If you've made it this far, first off, thank you. I appreciate either your genuine watcherly interest or your ability to suddenly tune back in during your daily tasks while I am on in the background. Secondly, we've made it to the point where I have to reveal my hand, the theme of the entire list. It's been there, waiting patiently for you to figure it out. I've been dying to share it with you, so here it is. If you haven't guessed it yet, you are officially out of... As I made my way through the list this year, one word kept lurking in the back of my mind. I've already said it quite often in this video. Time. The games I decided to play this year all had distinct connections to the idea of time. Games ahead of their time. a product of their time. Games about running out of time, taking your time, wasting time, victims of the endless march of time. It's a concept that human beings created to give us a sense of control, yet it often betrays us in quantifying our losses of time that we have left. I started writing this list in December of 2024. I knew I had a little over a year before my desired completion date, yet the idea of not having enough time continually gave me spikes in anxiety as often as it gave me motivation. They say of good, fast, and cheap, you can only ever pick two. Seeing as I don't have much money, cheap was a no-brainer. I definitely didn't do anything fast because, well, it took me a year to make this video. As for good, I'll let you decide. You may notice I decided to quote many famous people in the course of this video. I had hoped that somehow their wisdom would rub off on me a bit. I had hoped that in looking for inspiration from more successful people, I would feel like I had something to say too. That I would somehow absorb through osmosis the desire to live more freely and to create, to speak my mind, to realize my goals. Did it work? You tell me. 2024 was a bit of a slump for me. I lived most of that year in a disinterested haze until the end of it when I wrote my list again. I enjoyed creating it so much that I reached an epiphany. Going into 2025, I knew I wanted to do more with my time, finish more projects, read more books, move my life forward. And if this video actually came out, then I consider my previous unmotivated self totally owned. I finished more books. I finally got formally diagnosed as not normal. I finally learned more about personal finance. It sucked! I got married this year. I moved out of my parents' house. I went to Evo again. I finished all of these video games, and I only regretted a few of them. Most recently, I finished this video for you. In fact, if you were paying attention, I finished more than 20 smaller videos for you. You can see it in how I'm pretty much learning the video making process game by game. And if you couldn't see that, you are more than welcome to watch this whole video again. Time does not scare me as much anymore. I've left something that I worked hard on behind, and I have renewed hope in my ability to tackle the future. But there's still one more game we have to talk about. Wanderstop. You cannot make yourself feel something you do not feel, but you can make yourself do right in spite of your feelings. Pearl S. Buck. When a game hurts on purpose, does it make a difference? I mean emotionally, not physically. This game hurt me, and I dare say it wanted to. It knew how to. It knew all the right buttons to push. I am, unfortunately, this game's target audience. In my teen years and well into my early adulthood, I was quite the workaholic. I couldn't allow myself a moment of rest, and my failures were measured in angry, tearful nights of self-doubt. Self-improvement was just a side effect of feverishly chasing accolades, compliments, validation. It was only after a serious run-in with myself that I realized maybe I was the problem. I wasn't who I wanted to be, and what I was doing wasn't working. I wasn't working. Wanderstop reminded me of those wayward years, both of the highs and the lows. If I had played it back then, I'm not sure it would have resonated with me so strongly. Played as I am now, it seems I still have a lot to figure out.
I'm a failure. I'm weak. I'm a failure. I'm a failure. I'm a failure. A failure. I don't deserve it. I don't deserve it. I don't deserve it. I don't want to be this person.
Unlike other artsy games, Wanderstop does not steep itself in a layer of self-deprecating irony. Characters don't go out of their way to point out how ungame-like certain things are. I sometimes fear that games have found themselves in a bad spot when it comes to critical thought. They are compared disparagingly to older, more established art forms. Many games made as art are intentionally made player hostile. After all, joy distracts from purpose. Your game should be more like a movie, so people take its story seriously. More like a painting, so the message doesn't get lost. Your game shouldn't have any game in it, as more than minimal interaction would obviously distract from what the author wants to say. This game refuses to engage in the shallow chase of being taken seriously. Instead, Wanderstop delights in the aspects that make it a game just as often as it breaks convention. I wouldn't call this game slow, I'd call it deliberate. You can see it in the little things. Alta sweeps leaves and gathers ingredients with combos and strikes befitting an action game character. Optimizing your garden plot can be as layered as a good strategy title. The ability to add seasonal decor harkens back to the small, cozy victories of an Animal Crossing or Sims game. Normally, I'm against wasting a player's time with needless standing around and chores, but as a particularly lovable character puts it, what is there to lose by spending just a few easy minutes making tea? Wanderstop revels in its gameliness. Its world gently beckons to you. It asks you kindly to stop by and stay a while. Sit on every chair. Share a moment with a favorite customer. Make some tea for your gracious host. Make a cup or two for yourself. Softly, sweetly, it pulls you deeper into its particular flavor. Only then can it reveal its most profound tricks. I dare not spoil Wanderstop's more powerful moments. I will simply ask that you play it for yourself. This game broke me, utterly and completely, then offered me a hand back up, not out of spite or tedious resentment, but because it had things to say, things I think we all need to hear from time to time. We may never be the people we want to be. We may never do everything we dream of, see all we want to see, live our lives without hurting someone else, but we can change. We can move on. We can help. As long as we take the time. That's why Wanderstop is my game of the year. Real quick, Just some honorable mentions while we wrap up here. My favorite arcade game that I played this year is Dirt Dash by Namco, but I didn't actually beat it, so it couldn't be on the list. And 2XKO at the time of writing and editing isn't technically out yet, but it's already dominated a lot of my time. If I make another one of these, expect it next year. I'd like to make more videos in the future, so if something I brought up today piqued your interest, or if you thought, wow, this guy should talk about my favorite game, let me know. We're gonna go into some credits here, and if you liked what you saw, stick around. There's a little tease on one of the bigger projects I'm working on next. Hopefully that one won't take a whole year to make. This ruined my life.